Kia ora, and welcome to those of you joining us from around the world. Welcome to the Our Claims, Your Advantage webcast hosted by NZMP. My name's Johanna. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Look, today is a special opportunity for you to hear about the advantages of New Zealand's low carbon dairying, and in particular, how you can make the most of this information for your business. We're also going to tell you about our partnership with a trusted external certifier, that's Toitu EnviroCare, so you can be absolutely certain about promoting these claims to your consumers. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers today. I know they're really excited to tell you about the great work that's taking place here in New Zealand to make our farming industry one of the most environmentally friendly in the world. So to kick off, let's take a bit of a snapshot of Fonterra's sustainability solutions. And let's find out how Fonterra can partner with you to meet your own goals. Take a look at this.
At Fonterra, sustainability is core to our strategy. Guided by our markets, our customers, and consumers' needs, we have developed Fonterra Sustainability Solutions. These solutions have helped us uncover new opportunities, grow brand preference, and protect our business for the future. And they can help you too. It all starts here, with our natural pasture-based farming systems in New Zealand, with healthy, contented cows grazing on lush green grass all year round. Farming as nature intended.
Our farmers and our team of sustainability experts across Fonterra work hard every day to protect the land for future generations. We're proud that New Zealand's on-farm carbon footprint is one of the lowest in the world, but we can still reduce emissions further. For example, we're working closely with our farmers and research partners to find innovative solutions for the future.
We are working towards net zero emissions in our operations and have already begun our transition to more renewable forms of energy, and we're committed to our zero waste targets and improving our packaging.
Since 2003, we've delivered a 20% reduction in energy intensity across our New Zealand manufacturing sites. We're also focused on delivering more sustainable product offerings to consumers, like our partnership with Foodstuffs North Island, New Zealand's largest grocery retailer, to deliver the first carbon zero certified milk in New Zealand. And are committed to 100% reusable, recyclable or compostable product packaging by 2025. Trialling new solutions like our Anchor plant-based bottle made from sustainably sourced sugarcane.
We're focused on sustainability at every step of our supply chain. So no matter where you are on your sustainability journey, we have a range of tested solutions that can help you with everything from just starting out to achieving bold sustainability targets, to accessing new premium market segments that differentiate you from the competition, which makes us the natural partner for you and your business.
Yes, there is plenty for us to unpack over the next hour, and we'd love to have your involvement in this. We'll be having a panel discussion with our speakers a little bit later, and you can actually send in your questions to us here in Auckland, and I'll put those to our speakers later on. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can scan the QR code you can see on your screen, grab your phone, scan that QR code, and it will take you to Menti. Now, Menti will allow you to pop in your question to our team here, or you can open your web browser and you can head to the website there on screen, menti.com. That is MENTI.com. Pop in the code 15133047. That is 15133047. We would love to hear your questions, and we will try to get to as many of those possible a little bit later on. So it's time now for our first speaker, Matt Cullen. Matt is the GM of On-Farm Excellence Environment. Matt is responsible for developing the on-farm component of Fonterra's sustainability strategy and helping farmers to track their progress. He's here to tell us what Fonterra is doing to reduce emissions and how New Zealand stacks up with other countries. So welcome, Matt. Hey, thanks so much for being here, Matt.
Thank you, Jahan.
Good to see you. Now, I understand that you grew up on a farm here in New Zealand. That's a pretty classic Kiwi experience. What was that like for you?
Yeah, great question, Jahan. So, look, I grew up on a dry stock farm a little bit about an hour south of the studio here, actually, in the Waikato. So for me, look, I've got some really fond memories of spending a lot of time after school, during school holidays, and a little bit later on through university holidays of helping out on the farm. Look, for me, I think that probably inspired my passion for sustainability and for the agricultural sector. And I think, look, I was really inspired by my family and the wider farming community and the passion that they had for being part of that grass to glass or grass to plate story. And I guess seeing that reflected in the way that they cared for their animals and the way that they cared for their environment. And I guess if I kind of reflect on those times, look, I perhaps don't get the opportunity to put the gumboots on or get out and about and muck in as much as I perhaps used to. But look, really fortunate in my current role that I'm able to engage and connect with our farmers on a really regular basis. And that's something that I really love.
Now, sustainability is obviously really important to Fonterra. Tell us a bit about that journey that you and your team have been on.
Yeah, look, so we're a cooperative. We're owned by 10,000 farming families. Look, a lot of those farms are successional farms, so they're passed down through generations. So because of that, we're inherently focused on protecting the land and ensuring our sustainability into the future. So we see that embedded in our purpose. So our purpose guides everything that we do here at Fonterra, and our purpose is our cooperative, empowering people to create goodness for generations, tātou tātou. And that's te reo Māori for you, me, us together. Our purpose informs our strategy, and look, a sustainable future is absolutely core for our business. It's how we create long-term value for future generations. So you can see sustainability is a key pillar in our strategy. And look, what that means is we've been working, really hard with our farmers. We've been engaging with our customers and the communities that we operate in to ensure that we're doing what's right by them and ensure the sustainability of our industry. And for us, this means having really comprehensive and integrated plans on sustainability that contain commitments and initiatives to improve and protect the land that we rely on to farm. And to be really clear, this is right across the board, right? This is not just on farm. It's the work that we're doing to support our farmers to continually improve. It's our investment in R&D to identify and trial some of those new and innovative solutions, and right across, transitioning to renewable energy across our manufacturing operations.
Okay, Matt, so let's talk about the basics. What makes Fonterra unique when it comes to pasture-based farming?
Yeah, great question, Jahan, and this is probably the one that I'm most passionate about. Look, we are really fortunate here in New Zealand. We've got a temperate climate. We've got relatively abundant rainfall. We also receive more than our fair share of sunshine hours. I think most regions in New Zealand receive in excess of 2,000 sunshine hours a year. And what that means is that we can, we're really fortunate we can grow pasture all year round. And so what that means is that our cows can spend the majority of the year, or virtually all year, out there grazing on pasture. And in fact, our cows here in New Zealand spend more time out there on pasture than anywhere else in the world, in excess of 90%. So what that means, we're able to have really, really efficient pasture-based farming systems where our cows spend all of that time out there on grass. It means we've got a lot lower external inputs into our farming systems compared to other farming systems around the world. And what I mean by that is things like imported supplementary feed or imported synthetic fertiliser. And because of that, it means our farmers can run really efficient operations that have got really low carbon footprints and really high levels of animal welfare. So we've been measuring our carbon footprint for over 15 years. So that's an end-to-end measurement, right starting behind the farm gate right through to that product stage. And we've been doing that with ag research, and we're really excited. Our carbon footprint is one of the lowest in the world. But look, hey, perhaps don't take it from me. Probably a really good opportunity to perhaps hear from one of our farmers, Robert, down in Southland, about what makes our pasture-based farming system so unique.
What we try to focus on the farm for pasture growth is starting right with the soil, starting with that and looking after that. That is the fundamental that you've got to get right to grow your best pasture. So getting the balance of nutrients and your pH. And then we really focus on clover. We get the clover fixing the nitrogen to try and maximise the quality of it. We believe that by providing great quality grass, a mixture of pasture species in there, that it creates a milk that I'm proud of, but also quality-wise is right up there in terms of the protein and all the other goodies, the vitamins that go in there from grass.
Stunning pictures there. Matt, tell us about the farmers themselves. How are you working with farmers to reduce emissions on farm?
Yeah, thanks, Jahan. So we use what we call our cooperative difference framework, and we use that to manage those changes on farm that are required to meet our purpose and strategy goals. So the way that we do that is we look at all of our on-farm activities and we align those to 5 key pillars. So milk, people, co-op and prosperity, environment and animals. So under each of those pillars, we've got a set of standards that our farmers are required to meet here and now in order to supply milk to the cooperative, and that's what we call our core. We also have a mechanism in there as well to recognise those of our farmers who are going above and beyond some of those minimum standards, so that's our next steps, as well as providing them with really clear direction about some of the things that are coming down the pipeline at them, and that's our future. Look, supporting our farmers, underpins everything that we do to achieve some of these standards, whether that's in person, through our digital platforms, or through some of our partnerships. And look, this season, again, something really exciting, we've introduced a cooperative difference payment of up to 10 cents per kilogram of milk solids. And that's for those farmers who have met some of those on-farm sustainability and milk quality targets. We think that's a great way to recognise the fantastic work that our farmers have done and encourage them to keep driving for that positive change. We talked a little bit about tools and support underpinning everything we do. To support our farmers to understand their on-farm footprints and identify where they can improve, we've been providing farm-level annual reporting and benchmarking focus on the use of nutrients and greenhouse gas emissions. So these are bespoke, farm-level reports. They're digital, so our farmers submit their information at the end of the season. They receive that report back instantaneously, and what that enables them to do is to digest that information and start making plans, immediately into the next season that they can start enacting those. We also utilise farm environment plans as a vehicle to support and continually drive that on-farm change. So we've got a team of 40 sustainable dairying advisors across the country. So they're out there with gumboots on, working one-on-one with our farmers to provide really objective views of our farming systems, identifying risks on farm, and benchmarking farms relative to how they're performing to good farming practice. Our SDA team, our Sustainable Dairying Advisor team that is, utilise digital spatial platforms to develop really bespoke plans that reflect our farmers' often quite diverse farm systems and business aspirations. But all of these plans contain really specific time-bound actions to support that continual improvement across the farm system. We talked a little bit about digital platforms. So look, whilst a number of our farmers would prefer to have hard copy, something tangible to have on the desk in terms of their farm environment plans, they can interact through our digital platforms and manage their actions. And I guess just to give you a little bit of insight in terms of what that looks like, our farmers over the last 3 months have closed out over 2,500 actions, utilising that digital platform. So just goes to show that the huge amount of work that's going on out there on farm.
Wow. Now, some people might be wondering, what are the other innovations that Fonterra might be exploring at the moment? Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah, look, it goes without saying, there's a lot going on in the innovation space. So as we talked about earlier, look, we're starting from a really strong position in terms of footprint, but look, absolutely believe that partnerships and innovation are going to be key for us to taking some of those next steps around further reductions. So climate change is not something that's unique to our industry, and we can't do it alone. So we want to work together with our R&D partners, customers and other organisations to identify some of the innovative solutions and trial those. So some really great examples of that. We're founding members of what we call the PGGRC, so the Pastoral Greenhouse Gas Research Consortium here in New Zealand. So that's an organisation that's focused on providing tools and knowledge for New Zealand farmers to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions from the ag sector, and that's in collaboration with the New Zealand government. In Australia, we've partnered with Sea Forest to understand the risks and practical considerations of using Asparagopsis seaweed as a feed additive to reduce methane emissions in dairy cows. And we're also drawing on our extensive experience in dairy fermentations and cultures to identify potential natural solutions to reduce the amount of methane that cows produce. So Kombucha is the name that we've given to those fermentations that we're developing to attempt to reduce that methane production. And looking a bit wider, we've teamed up with Nestle and Dairy NZ in the Tararua district to expand our plantain trial and how this can be integrated into farm systems. So plantain's a herb that can be grown as part of the pasture sward, and what it does is it reduces the amount of nitrogen in cow urine. So what that means is there's more nitrogen is available to be utilised by plants in pasture, and less is available then to be lost to the environment.
Kombucha. I would have liked to have sat in on that planning meeting or the brainstorm meeting when they came up with that name. It's a nice one.
Fantastic.
So obviously sustainability isn't just about what happens on the farm. Give us a sense of what else is happening across the cooperative.
Sure. Look, whilst our on-farm emissions make up quite a significant proportion of our footprint, we've got a really strong focus right across the supply chain to reduce our footprint. So what that means, we've got a decarbonisation plan to transition to renewable energy and achieve net zero by 2050 across all of our manufacturing operations. And I guess to give you a little bit of insight in terms of some of the milestones to help us get there, that's things like no new coal boilers to be installed, a 30% reduction in absolute emissions by 2030, prioritising the phasing out of coal by 2037. And look, we've made some really tangible progress towards some of these ambitions. You would have seen in the video earlier, we hit our first energy intensity target last year, and our transition out of coal is underway. We've had transition to wood pellets and biomass at our sites in Te Awamutu and Brightwater last year. So look, a lot going on right across the supply chain. And probably a really good opportunity just to perhaps summarise that. We've got teams right across the business, from on-farm, focus on R&D, right through to our manufacturing and distribution, working on this every day. And I guess I think we're doing a great job of rising to the challenge of reducing our footprint, and we've made some really tangible reductions both on-farm and in manufacturing in recent years. And look, perhaps the last piece of the puzzle here for us is around some of our sustainable products. So look, things like our carbon zero butter, and this is something that we can deliver to our customers right here and now to support them and their journey to net zero in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Matt. Really appreciate all the insights that you've shared with us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you a little bit later on for our panel discussion, so please stick around. Okay, just a reminder for those of you joining us that we want to hear your thoughts and your questions. We will be putting those to our panel a little bit later on. Let's pop up that QR code again just to remind you how you can send your questions through to us here in Auckland. You can pull out your phone and you can scan the QR code. You can also jump on menti.com, that is MENTI.com, and you can pop in the code 15133047. There it is on your screen, 15133047. We would love to hear your thoughts and questions for our panellists. Now, we've heard so far this morning about Fonterra's sustainability credentials. How do you turn that into a competitive advantage for your business? We're about to meet Lara Phillips. Lara is Senior Manager for Sustainability Solutions at Fonterra. She has some great ideas about how you can build trust with your consumers using all this great information. So Lara, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jehan and Matt. So now I'd like to speak to you around why we need sustainable product solutions and what we can bring to our customers, specifically in the area of climate, and the benefits that this can provide in helping to take action today and show tangible progress. To start, we know our markets around the world are well aware of the range of global sustainability challenges, whether that's waste, pollution, water security, labor practices, or climate change. And with climate change as an example, as we know, the planet has warmed 1 degree since pre-industrial levels, and under the Paris Agreement, we've agreed to pursue efforts to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees to mitigate and prevent further impacts. So these challenges are informing our community concerns and those of our investors, you, our customers, and consumers globally. So starting with consumers, we see increasingly that consumers feel that health and sustainability are interlinked, with damage done to the environment having a direct impact on their well-being. Consumers are seeking leadership from companies and purpose-led brands that are part of the solution. As a result, we're seeing a growth in sustainable products across food and beverage worldwide, growing 3 to 4 times faster than conventional products. And this is the same in dairy. Sustainable dairy product launches have increased 80% since 2014. Now, climate change is a key topic in the sustainability conversation, and this is also front of mind for consumers as well. Consumers are interested in the footprint of their food and are actively seeking more sustainable options. If we look specifically at carbon, we see that around 46% of consumers are looking out for carbon claims when purchasing food, drink, or supplements. And this is driven by consumers wanting to do their bit and make a difference, with around 63% of consumers globally now making a greater effort to reduce their own footprint. And this comes through in the products that they choose to buy. And the market has been responding to this need, of course, with product launches carrying carbon claims doubling since 2017. Now, of course, this is globally relevant. Climate change is a universally relevant issue, and we'll see impacts of climate change around the world over time. But if we look at the US specifically, we see that 79% of US consumers are concerned about emissions, and 72% have made a greater effort to reduce their own footprint as well in recent years. Now, this is transferring into their purchasing decision, and we're seeing around 45% of consumers willing to pay a premium for products with environmentally friendly claims as well. Now, of course, with COVID, we've seen an acceleration in this concern in light of COVID as well, with more consumers aware of their waste and environmental impact, having spent the last year predominantly at home, for instance. So this is impacting them, reevaluating their needs and concerns as well. And so we're seeing around 61% making more environmentally friendly, sustainable, or ethical purchases, and actually looking to indicate that they'll be continuing this behavior and habit change post-COVID as well. So as a result, we're seeing this as a growing concern around sustainability impact the investment community as well, with investors concerned about climate risk, the impact of carbon pricing, physical and transition risk in relation to climate change. And so investors are seeking more information about companies' climate targets, their policies, reduction plans, and assurance around this. And this is transferring into growth in reporting and external disclosure, such as under the Carbon Disclosure Project and ESG indices as an example as well. Overall, this increasing magnitude of these sustainability challenges and the growth in stakeholder, consumer, and investor interest in climate performance is informing this need for us to do more and support our customers on climate. We know that for our customers, the majority of their footprint is in their ingredients, and often dairy is an important part of that. So we want to help our customers. And this is a challenge for us all, and we can only we can only solve the most complex of global challenges by working together. So that's what we're looking to do today. With that in mind, today we want to talk about how we can accelerate our progress and create new solutions together. To do that, we've been investing in sustainability across the business from farm, factory to consumer for many years now. From our work on farm to deliver sustainable pasture farming systems, which Matt spoke about before, to our environmental management systems in our manufacturing operations with an EcoVadis gold rating. And then looking through to how do we deliver sustainability to our consumers with things like advanced nutritional solutions to improve health and well-being, new sustainable packaging innovation, or carbon zero products. Meaning that across the supply chain, we can offer a suite of attributes or capabilities, data or assurance that can support our customers to meet their needs. So looking at how we can support customers to uncover opportunities, grow brand preference, and protect your business for the future from this, we can draw from that expertise across the supply chain to help you meet your needs, whether that's innovation, R&D, or new product development. And we can utilize our market insights as well to ensure our sustainability solutions are relevant to your markets and help you build resilience for the future. This also enables us to build the unique claims and content that help you differentiate your products, such as our natural dairy claims, like grass-fed and non-GMO, through to our carbon zero claims. And finally, all of this is supported by comprehensive data and assurance to ensure credible sustainability communications and to deliver confidence to your stakeholders that you're meeting your sustainable sourcing policies. These three areas enable us to offer much more to our customers than just claims and data, but this enables us to have conversations with our customers, to collaborate, and to find solutions to shared challenges together. So today we're going to focus on our climate-related claims and capabilities, which includes carbon labeling and carbon zero, and this is all enabled by our ingredient carbon footprint certificate. So over the past year, we've been working with AgResearch to develop a model to calculate the full life cycle analysis of our NZMP dairy ingredients. And this is building off of the 15 years of life cycle analysis work that we've been doing with AgResearch that Matt mentioned before. And Toitu EnviroCare, who you'll hear from shortly, have audited and verified this, so we can provide that certificate to our customers as well. So there's a number of benefits for our customers that our customers can extract from this certificate, using it to enable external disclosure and give stakeholders assurance of their carbon footprint and performance, to benchmark your supply chain and drive continuous improvement, to give stakeholders confidence you're taking action on emissions, and to future-proof your business to meet those growing investor and stakeholder needs. This carbon data and certification also enables our customers to bring carbon labeling onto your product and packaging, with an example here on the slide. So carbon labeling on pack can help you to secure that first mover advantage in this new area of climate-related claims, to leverage that transparency to differentiate your product by showing your commitment to working towards a better future, helping to grow brand preference, increase market share, or gain a competitive advantage, and to help enable consumers to make a difference with more sustainable choices. And finally, building on these capabilities and through working with Toitu EnviroCare, we can offer carbon zero certification to our customers as well. To deliver the carbon zero certification, there are a few additional steps. We calculate that footprint of dairy ingredients across our full life cycle analysis, including the farm inputs, manufacturing, distribution that Matt mentioned. We demonstrate reduction in our footprint today and build a plan to reduce our emissions into the future as well. We finally offset the remaining balance of emissions with high-quality offset projects recommended by Toitu, such as Gold Standard Verified Renewable Energy, or New Zealand government-approved permanent native forest regeneration as well. And so Toitu verifies this footprint to complete the carbon zero certification and offer that or deliver that to us. So carbon offsetting doesn't replace our climate plan to reduce emissions and further, but it works in parallel, enabling us to deliver those climate solutions to our consumers right now, today. So we've completed this for our NZMP organic butter and of our fresh milk here in New Zealand as well, and can support our customers to complete this process for their final ingredients to achieve carbon zero on their products as well. So this provides the added benefit of reducing emissions in your supply chain, helping you to meet your targets faster, empowering consumers to make those better choices towards products with a lower carbon footprint. It can also have the added benefit of the strength of that third-party certification against an internationally recognized carbon footprinting methodology. So this really helps to ensure a strong, credible proposition and show how the carbon zero proposition can come to life. We've put together a video of our recently launched NZMP Carbon Zero organic butter.
This may look like just a block of butter, but in New Zealand, this butter is a result of a lot of hard work by our Fonterra farming families. People who really care about our land and our planet. Over the past few decades, Fonterra farmers have been working really hard to reduce their environmental footprint by zeroing in on how we can farm in even better ways. by creating a specific plan for each farm, focused on looking after their environment, protecting our rivers and lakes, and planting over 1 million native trees. We're doing other really cool stuff as well, like trying different ways to naturally reduce methane, investing in electric vehicles wherever we can, and using renewable energy to lower our footprint even more. Learning how to farm better by working together with nature. New Zealand dairy already has one of the lowest carbon footprints in the world. Getting to carbon zero isn't easy. That's why we are measuring, reporting and improving everything we do, on farm, in manufacturing and transport, so we can reduce our footprint and offset the rest to balance it all out. We are working to protect the earth, water and skies that nurture and connect us all. Step by step making our home better, wherever that may be. Everything has an impact. And when you know better, you can choose better. And together, we can all do better. So, do you still think this is just a block of butter?
So if you're looking to launch a low carbon or carbon zero product yourself, we can help you amplify your marketing efforts through a range of emotive and authentic imagery and video content that we filmed at our farms here in New Zealand. We also have videos of expert speakers talking to specific attributes like grass-fed dairy and our pasture-fed farming systems to reinforce and strengthen that message as well, to really help you make the most of the sustainability and low carbon dairy story for your brand. And if you're looking to go that next step further with your marketing activity, we have a number of experts within our business, marketers that work in sustainability and that can work alongside your team and bring those assets to help to bring your brand story to life, such as point of sale material or a microsite to your consumers, for example, to help showcase these exciting new solutions and content we've shared with you today. As I mentioned before, for us, sustainability is all about partnership and collaboration, and we'd love to collaborate with you to work together on how we can find solutions to shared sustainability challenges or connect our consumers on sustainability and lead the way on sustainable nutrition. I'll now pass back to Jehan.
Thank you, Lara. And knowledge is power, right? It's great to see how your team is actually sharing this information with your customers so that they can go on to tell that story to their consumers. So that's really great to see. We will see you back here very shortly for our panel discussion. Thank you. So you heard Lara mention their Toitu EnviroCare. Now, Toitu is a Kiwi business operating in 40 countries around the world. Toitu is a key partner of Fonterra, providing robust science and data behind the climate claims that Fonterra can offer. And that'll give you confidence and certainty in Fonterra's products so you can go on to share that story with your consumers. Becky Lloyd is the CEO of Toitu and she joins us now. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you very much, Jehan. I'm Becky Lloyd. I would like to talk to you today about Toitu, about what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And I'd like to start with a short video that will just bring to life what the meaning of Toitu is.
At the heart of what we do is Toitu. Toitu te whenua. Hold fast to the land. Toitu te mana. Hold fast to our word. Toitu te mauri. Hold fast to all life. Toitu is to sustain holistically, to sustain continually, It is our name and our commitment. We are here to make sustainability a natural part of how you work, pairing passion with proof and ambition with actions. Providing a pathway for businesses to make positive change. And be recognised for it. Toitu is a collective. Together, we can build momentum, stand out, inspire hope, and lead the way toward a more sustainable world. Together, we can enrich the life of this place, our people, and our future. Toitu, together.
So that video really brings to life our identity, and our identity is informed by the Maori proverb, or whakatoki, that you just heard. And at the heart of what we do is toitu, to actively sustain. So that all sounds lovely, but what does it actually mean in practice? Well, here are a few things about toitu that I'd like to share. We have a really strong heritage in science. We're grounded in science, and that's what we do. We operate our programs in line with international standards and best practice, and we're actually a subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary of Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research, which is a New Zealand government-owned research institute, again, grounded in science. And we have a really solid track record of doing what we do. We've been in the game for 20 years, and as I say, we're fully grounded in science and international standards. We're also very rigorous in how we operate our programs, so we are accredited by JASANS, which is the Joint Accreditation System of Australia and New Zealand. And what their job is to make sure that we're doing our job in line with those international standards that I spoke about. And we measure our impact. That's the reason we exist, is to deliver impact. And so what that means, how we measure that, is through the carbon dioxide emissions that we verify, that our clients reduce, and that ultimately they may go on to offset. We're internationally aligned in terms of what we do, so our programs are in line with ISO standards. We're members of ICROA, which is the International Carbon Reduction Offsetting Alliance. We're aligned to CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project that Lara mentioned earlier, and we're also strongly affiliated to the Science Based Targets Initiative, and that is a methodology for setting standards for carbon emissions reductions that are aligned to the Paris Agreement goals. That all sounds a bit dry, perhaps, so I wanted to introduce you to some of our people. Collectively, we have over 75 years of combined experience in greenhouse gas emissions measurement and reduction and so on. And so that really means that we have experts that can help you to do everything that you need to do. So what do we actually do, you may be wondering? What we do is we help our clients to achieve Toitu Carbon Zero and Carbon Reduced certification. And what certification means, it means that the organisation or product has measured those operational or product emissions as per international best practice, and that they have developed a plan to reduce those emissions, and that the footprint and plan have been independently verified against the highest international standards, and that those emissions have then been offset with the high quality carbon credits that Lara was referring to earlier on. And so that really means that if you're Carbon Zero certified or Carbon Reduced certified by us, you're achieving the gold standard in terms of best practice and robustness. So I've mentioned a couple of times international standards. So we adhere primarily to the ISO standard set, and those are internationally agreed as best practice by experts. ISO 14064 is the primary standard that we use, and that sets the requirements for quantification and reporting of greenhouse gas emissions. And as I mentioned earlier, we're accredited by JASANS, the Joint Accreditation System of Australia and New Zealand, to follow those standards. We also, for our product carbon certifications, we use the PAS 2050 standard, and that refers to the life cycle analysis, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means shortly. And everything that we do aligns to the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, which I'm sure you have heard about also. So when you join our program, and Lara mentioned some of this a little earlier, what's involved is, first off, you would register on our platform. So we have an IT suite that captures all of the inventory, the emissions, all of the activities that you're doing that generate emissions. And that's really the measure phase. So organisations that work with us will go through a process of gathering all of their information, putting it into a system, and then the system will tell them how many tonnes of CO2 equivalent effectively are generated by those activities. And then, as Lara also mentioned, the organisation will go into the manage phase, and that's about understanding how they can best reduce their emissions. And some of that can be done really quickly, but some of it takes a bit longer to get across. Then we would come in and we would verify that inventory that's been collected. If the organisation then wants to make a carbon zero claim, they would purchase and cancel carbon credits to the equivalent amount of carbon dioxide emissions that need to be offset. And then what we like to see, as Lara also mentioned, is our clients going on to market those real advantages, because they will have done a lot of work to measure their footprint and to offset their emissions. So in terms of Toitu's relationship with Fonterra, we're really proud to be working with Fonterra, and we've been working with them for a while. As you have seen already, we worked with Fonterra to launch the Toitu Carbon Zero certified fresh milk products earlier in the year, and just recently we have verified the first Carbon Zero certified organic butter product exporting to the North American market. And having this capability means that NZMP customers can benefit, as Lara was talking about, from these carbon zero claims. So what does it actually mean to be a carbon zero certified product? So in the case of the New Zealand organic butter, the way that works is there's two ways of doing product life cycle analysis. You start at the point of inception of the product, and that's called cradle, and you can go either to gate or you can go to grave. So in the case of the organic butter product, we've done a cradle to gate certification, and what that means in a little bit more detail is, as is illustrated here, it starts off with what happens on farm. So on the farm, the fresh milk is produced, and all the emissions that are associated with doing that on farm are measured and gathered. The product is then transported, and the emissions associated with that transport are also recorded and reported. There is then some processing that happens, which generates emissions, and those are also captured. Then there's another distribution and storage phase, and there are emissions associated with storage, for instance, with refrigeration and so on. And then the product is shipped to Chicago, and we've also captured and verified the emissions associated with that shipping and then with the storage in the Chicago warehouse. And that's where the boundary ends for a cradle to gate certification. So, and that works really well for an ingredient, because you will then potentially take that ingredient and do other things with it that may also generate emissions on top. So why get third-party certification? And these are some of the main reasons that we hear from our clients. So first off, it reduces the risk of greenwash. You know, there are increasing numbers of greenwash accusations happening at the moment, and so it's really important that any claims you make are robust and grounded in science. It gives you more freedom then to make robust claims. You can do that with confidence. And it gives you the opportunity to really differentiate your product and grow brand preference, and then hopefully also grow market share, particularly as we see these consumer trends growing for wanting to make sustainable purchases. And it means you can manage your risk, because actually in the long term, we all know that consumers are going to be demanding more and more sustainable products. So it's important that you know what the sustainability credentials of your products actually are. So, you know, I imagine a future, I'd like you to imagine a future where consumers may be walking down the aisle in the supermarket or browsing on an online supermarket, and they'll actually be making their choices based on the carbon labelling that they see in front of them as much, if not more, than the nutritional labelling that they might be looking at today. In fact, we're already starting to hear talk of carbon zero product aisles in our supermarkets. Similarly, you might be looking at a restaurant menu, and you can make your choices based on the carbon footprint of the dish in front of you, rather than necessarily choosing on price or nutritional information. You might want to scan a bottle, a milk bottle or a pat of butter with your phone and trace it back to the farm that it came from. So that's increasingly where the consumer trends are going. This thorough certification that we can provide gives you the foundation to be able to deliver what this consumer of the future and increasingly of the present is really looking for. So back to you, Jahan.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Becky. And it's great to hear that there is so much rigour associated with that process. Thank you for explaining the process to us. Stay with us. We're about to head into our panel discussion, and this is your last chance to send your questions through to us. Our moderators are having a look at those now, and they're sending me through those questions on the iPad. So if you'd like to send in a question, there is the QR code once again. Scan that on your phone, or you can open your browser and you can head to menti.com, menti.com, and the code is 15133047. That is 15133047. Send your questions through and we will put them through to our panellists very shortly. And also let us know if you have any particular thoughts or observations on what you've heard so far this morning. So a welcome back to Matt and Lara, and of course Becky is with us. Thanks to all of you for being here. I know that you are itching to get into these questions, so let's get straight to it. Becky, why has climate change become so important for brands over the last few years?
It's a bit of a perfect storm, really, and I think it starts with the science. So, you know, the UN IPCC did their analysis, and they showed that climate change is unequivocally real and requires some urgent action. And what that then flowed into was, you know, student climate strikes, consumers then picking that up and really demanding change. So pressure's coming from consumers, it's coming from employers, it's coming from buyers, and it's coming from investors. So it's really, we're experiencing this sort of perfect storm of momentum now.
So let's talk about what we're seeing in the US, for example. Climate claims, carbon zero claims, what are we seeing over there?
Yeah, there's a lot of activity in the US, as I'm sure our audience is aware. We saw a lot in the early stages from the tech companies, like Microsoft, for instance, was a really early mover and a big committer. So they made a very bold commitment to being carbon negative by 2030, and that included removing all of their legacy emissions from the point that the company was initially incorporated. So that, you know, that's a very, very big commitment. Similarly, we've seen Walmart make some very bold commitments and statements of intent, investing huge amounts in nature-based solutions, and that's starting to flow through into their suppliers and into their supply chain. So they're now requiring, as I understand it, organisations that supply into them to be much more transparent about their emissions and about their sustainability credentials. And that's then flowing through onto the supermarket shelves that I was talking about earlier. So people wanting to know about the carbon footprint of what they're buying. So we're seeing more and more claims on packaging, carbon labelling starting to come in. Unilever, for instance, has made some big commitments to having carbon labels on their entire product suite over time. So yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, it's a great point, Becky. I mean, certainly in food and beverage, there's a huge conversation about sustainable nutrition and the role that the food sector needs to play in addressing climate change and being part of the solution here. So we're seeing in the food and beverage and with a lot of the multinationals, but around the world, a lot of science-based targets and commitments around emission reduction, and certainly in the dairy sector that's growing as well. So increasingly relevant for the dairy products that we can also demonstrate that also.
Becky, let's talk more about independent verification. You touched on this in your presentation. Why is it so important that we have independent verification of these claims?
Although hopefully I made it sound quite simple, there is a fair amount of complexity in how you decide, you know, what you should include and what you shouldn't include, what's the emissions factor you should apply to that particular emission source, etc. So it's really easy to, I guess, get it wrong. And so I think the importance of third-party verification is that it kind of makes sure that you've done it right. And as I mentioned, you know, we align to international standards. It means that you can be confident that when you make those claims internationally as well, that you're doing it against a robust foundation. So it's really about sort of establishing that baseline of accuracy and robustness. You know, I've had conversations with a CFO who said, I just need to get this verified so that my board will stop moving the goalposts.
Right.
You know, we need a stable platform so that then we can go forward and we know what we're dealing with and we know what we're improving on. So, you know, lots of reasons, but it's really about that solid foundation to move forward.
Laura, we've heard about how important this is to consumers. What are the opportunities for the people joining us on the webcast today?
Certainly. Well, I think what we see with products is that we do need to be able to communicate effectively what our environmental impact is and what we're doing to reduce. And what we're seeing is with purpose-led brands that are really building sustainability into the proposition, those brands are doing a tremendous job around growing market share, brand preference, and driving value from doing that effectively. So there's a great opportunity to really think about what's relevant to your business, where are the material issues around sustainability, and we know for dairy, climate is certainly one of them. So it's a great opportunity to really get on the front foot and proactively communicate with your consumers what you're doing about climate change and how they can feel good about their purchasing decisions when they're buying your product.
So it is an opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Matt, what about emission reduction targets on farm? Is this something that Fonterra is looking at?
Yeah, excuse me, great question, Jahan. So look, that's something that's absolutely forefront of mind for us. And so look, we're really actively engaged in conversations right now, with the New Zealand government, also with agricultural groups. We talked a little bit about further understanding, some of those practices on farm that we can change, and also, further, our investment in R&D and some of those innovative solutions, and how those can be integrated into farm systems. So look, we're working really hard on that, and look, we're absolutely committed to having an on-farm science-based target by 2024.
What about regenerative agriculture? What is Fonterra's take on this?
Yeah, a really, something that's really topical here in New Zealand, both with our farmers and also with the New Zealand public. And look, I guess, recognising that at the moment, and perhaps this plays into Becky's call a little bit, that there isn't a unified definition in terms of what that means, and beyond principle level for New Zealand farming systems. But look, I guess I'd go back to feeling really confident about where we are, and we talked about our pasture-based farming systems here in New Zealand. They align really well with regenerative principles. We farm to natural grass growth curves, which is makes us really unique, perhaps compared with farming systems around the world. Because of that, we return a lot of organic matter back to the soil, and here in New Zealand we have really high organic matter levels in soil, and subsequently high soil carbon levels. I guess kind of taking that a step further. When we look at things like our farm environment plans and some of the principles that we farm to, look, really low levels of soil cultivation here in New Zealand because of those systems, and a really big focus on diversity. We talked a little bit earlier about introducing plantain into pasture swards, and also some of the great work that I think we saw in some of the videos around some of the work that farmers are doing around planting and riparian management. So look, whilst still a lot of discussions going on about what that means for New Zealand farming systems, I think we're really well placed compared to if we look at that at a global scale.
Oh, I was just going to add on that, Matt. We're seeing a lot of conversation internationally with our customers on that as well. A lot of concern around soil health, soil quality, the resilience of the farming system, and concern about the ability to continue to farm into the future. And so we're really fortunate here in New Zealand, as Matt said, but a lot of interest from our customers around how do we ensure that we're farming in a way that's building resilience into the future. And so a lot of commitments and communications starting to be made around supporting regenerative agriculture practices in their supply chain, and that's something that New Zealand has a real opportunity to do as well.
And a related question here, Lara, what sets Fonterra apart from other grass-fed providers in Europe?
Well, as Matt mentioned, our cows spend more time on pasture than anywhere else in the world. We're really fortunate with a temperate climate here. So really what that means is, of course, we've got a great amount of grass in the diet, which is the cow's natural diet. Also, because the cows are outside, we have low antibiotic use and low somatic cell counts, which is really great for milk quality. We have no artificial hormones, and so a really great natural pasture-fed farming system story for our products that can help tell a pure natural dairy story to consumers that really connects to their need. Animal health and welfare is something that we're seeing a lot of interest from consumers as well, and so grass-fed dairy can really help to meet that as well. And then, of course, all of those things added together means a low carbon footprint, which delivers that final benefit as well.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Matt?
I think Lara covered it off. Very comprehensive job. I'm not sure there's much I can add.
Excellent. Let's move on. So, Lara, the issues that we're talking about today are hugely important on a global scale. Is Fonterra working with other leaders in the global dairy sector to tackle these issues?
Yeah, absolutely. This is certainly a global challenge, and we really need to work together and rally our efforts to address a lot of these challenges. But some great collaboration going on in the area of research and development, which Matt touched on with regards to methane solutions, but also in the sustainability of dairy more generally. So the Dairy Sustainability Framework, which is really setting a holistic framework for looking at animal health and welfare, labor practices, as well as environmental sustainability, for example. And the Sustainable Dairy Partnership, which is really focused on helping dairy purchasers get assurance around the sustainability of the dairy that they're buying. So tracking and monitoring progress, driving continuous improvement, trying to accelerate systemic change, and then of course providing that assurance to buyers that they're meeting their sustainable sourcing policies around dairy. So collaboration is really key. We need to sort of rally our global efforts, and so working together with others is really critical.
One of the questions that seems to come up, Lara, is how can New Zealand dairy have a low carbon footprint when you're located on the other side of the world? I guess the other side of the world depends on where you are, but a long way away from some of our markets.
Absolutely, and of course we export our products around the world, so we do get that question a lot. And so really when you look at it, when you look at the footprint of a product, and because we've done a full life cycle analysis, we know that 80 to 90% of the end product footprint is the on-farm footprint, and particularly that methane and nitrous oxide, which is harder to address, but because of our low footprint here in New Zealand, it does mean that the end product footprint is also relatively low. So even when you add on international distribution, which can be 1 to 5% for that end product footprint, because it's actually really efficient to put product on ships rather than driving it around a continent, that means that that end product can still have a low footprint. So as our on-farm dairy footprint's around 1/3 the global average, that means that when we deliver that product to a consumer, it can still have a lower footprint than something that's sourced from down the road, which is sometimes a little bit complicated to understand, but really important when you think about the sustainable nutrition challenge for the world and how do we deliver the most sustainable nutrition to our consumers.
So you go ahead,
Just add to that, yeah, I mean, I think we see that a lot, and referring back to your question about, well, what's the point of certification, third-party verification? It's really important to understand the boundaries that you're talking about. So, you know, when you see a carbon label on a product, you need to be able to look at it and know where that footprint relates to, from where to where. So to Lara's point, you know, you need to be able to compare like with like. And so again, third-party verification goes with transparency, and it gives you that real deep understanding of where the emission sources come from.
So Becky, what are the things that need to be measured and offset for a product to be certified by Toitū?
Well, I think that sort of relates to what we were just talking about. You define the scope and boundary, and in the case of a product, you go cradle to gate or cradle to grave. Transparency around what you're measuring is really important. So part of our standards, part of these standards, are that you need to be very clear about what the scope and boundaries are that you're including, and the standards define what those, what should be included, and you have to include everything that's material. You know, you may see sort of certifications that aren't done to standards that perhaps exclude material emission sources. So it is important to, there's a little bit of buyer beware, it is important to make sure that things are done properly. But yes, in terms of what's measured, as I was saying earlier, in the case of the organic butter, we go from the on-farm emissions all the way through to the Chicago port storage. Whereas for the fresh milk product that we certified, the New Zealand milk product, that was a cradle-to-grave certification, so that went all the way through from the on-farm emissions, all the way through distribution, the consumer actually buying the product from the supermarket, taking it home, storing it in their fridge, and then even to the point of disposing of the packaging, ideally recycling, but not always recycling. So you know, when you do a cradle-to-grave, you include all of those aspects.
So is there a universally recognised way to calculate a carbon footprint?
Yes, that's what the international standards do. So ISO 14064 is for organisational footprints, and the PAS 2050 standard that I referred to covers product life cycle analysis. So yes, there's a range, but ISO and PAS are the best practice ones.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Becky, Matt and Lara. We really appreciated your time and your insights this morning. Thank you for being here. And a big thank you to you for joining us, for taking time out of your day for this webcast. It's really been special to have you part of it. We hope it's given you some food for thought. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've heard today. Please email sustainability.solutions@fonterra.com to get in touch with one of our experts. And if you have questions, you can visit nzmp.com/sustainability solutions or get in touch with your account manager. We'll be sending out a survey after this event. Please tell us what you took away from our discussion. We'll also be sending you a summary of today's presentation along with a shortened version of this webcast. We hope that's of use to you. Thank you so much once again for being with us. Have a great day or night wherever you are. And on behalf of the whole Fonterra team, mā te wā, we'll see you all soon.